Whew. Hey y'all, what's going on? Okay, so I tried to dust some. Listen, it's bad when you just take your some queen powder and trying to cover up the sick. It didn't work. This lip that I have on today is oh Lord, Pink Passion by Deshae Cosmetics, y'all. Also, similar to it is the Pink Crush. And this is also Deshae. I think they similar to me. See? Anywho, y'all, let me go ahead and talk about the underground, because I don't want to lose sight of that, because I think this is an important show that everybody needs to see. Just real talk, and not just black folks, white folks also. On this episode, we know from last time Miss Honey Cabbage had to stab old dude in the throat, and I thought he was dead, but he wasn't dead. He just fucked up. Now, in this episode, you get to see them running and going through the whole process. Also, you get to see they was already forming this relationship already digging. She's already looking for the big house out to the cotton fields or wherever he's at, in this whole mixture. Now, in this one, I feel like on this episode, you do get to see they shit grow, but you see just how well he's trying to protect her. But ultimately, in the end, it was them collectively together supporting each other. Just like he would have never known about. There was a scene where the poison flower or whatever to give to the dogs, she'd have laid the dogs out. She's like, I need one more second. Now, before we get to that, a very important scene, just to show how the difference was set up from the door. House nigga versus field. And how they will pit almost against each other. Unbeknownst to them, this thing is going on because the people out in the field, burning up hot, picking till they, hands bleed, the women having to have their babies out in the field, and versus the ones inside that the field Negroes think, well, they got it good. They dress nice, they in there, they in the house, they get to do that. But in all actuality, it shows that mentality of really the house Negro was more enslaved than the field Negro, because they had no freedom. There was no break time for them. There was none. It was basically 24 hours a day. Not that the other slaves weren't slaves, but they had those moments where they could go in their own cabin and do whatever they do, whether it be praying, crying, wishing this was over, contemplating running, whichever. But when you have the inside Negro, he never gets a break. She never gets a break. Now, it's a double-edged sword, because, of course, it's going to be predominantly, mostly women that's going to be in the house. So not only are they going to be cleaning, be at the hands of the motherfucking mistress, whom is hating the shit out of them, because she knows that the master is taking more time in their bed, whether they want to or not, than they are with her. So this forms a whole, I get this impression in a way. Yes, the white man did the beating and all of that, but the women, the wives, was just as treacherous. And you see this in this. So this is why I love the way this is playing out, because it does show that. It does give you the full insight on the light skin, dark skin thing, because this is what it boils down to. Because more than likely, the ones that was in the house, for the most part, was going to be those that was probably spawned from the master before and before and before. You understand what I'm trying to say? Then they begin to have children and this and that and other. Y'all get what I'm saying? Y'all know what I'm saying? So you see that, old girl from last episode, she's like, she's just in there all the time. She had that moment where she was able to talk to her brother, whom her mother, well, unbeknownst to her, has ostracized him. But to her, she feels like she's done the best thing by him even having that job, but he feels totally left out and not wanted when he's just one hue darker than them. Okay, So now in the midst of this, they done ran off. The master done found out he want them to come back. That treacherous ass white man who has the son, he's got a wife that's in the hospital or whatever. He's trying to get money, and I guess they trying to play it like he is possibly decent. No, he's not. He went out and he seems to be the best at what he does, because once they run off, he realizes, and y'all remember last episode, he was watching her. The one that ran away, he was watching her. And I knew then that they were going to be tied in together some kind of way. So he comes, he wants to give his help and all of this and that and the third. He's already had to kind of talk to and confront his son about his son seeing what he's done and what he is doing. Now, the son has pretty much, it seems like to me, been raised by the black guy that lives there, whom we find out, and this just, again, touches on everything. He says that he learned his hunting skills from Indians. Okay, come on, Underground, tell the real truth on it. Tell the truth on it, because a lot of times when they're doing these slave shows and this and that and the third, showing what happened, they fail to mention the Indians, which played a very important part. And so he's explaining to him how he learned, and you know, you can see in the son's eye that he's like, man, I'm not jigging with what his dad does. I look for on down the series for him to grow into his own and become a part of those white folks that did help. You know, help the slaves to hide and to get over and make it to the other side. Now, the funny thing is they make it up north, and it's just as bad, not just as bad, but it's bad up north. Because we realize that from the whole situation that's going on between the chick who was upset about the little boy fanning, y'all don't have the names, I don't, who was fanning, and she was like, that's when she made up her mind she had to do something. Y'all, this is just so deep that I find myself wanting to just talk about what feelings I have about it. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I want to tell you blow by blow, but it definitely gives us a small insight, because I'm sure there was way more treachery than we can ever even imagine. Whatever you read on paper, you better know that it was much worse than that, because they do it well, hiding that shit, wanting to act like it didn't happen. Now you have those ones that want America great again, that relish in exactly what was going on then, and will be glad to tell you how bad it was and wish it would be that way again. Think again. So let me get back on track, because like I said, y'all, this just really makes me think. Watching this show makes me want to jot down my feelings or whatever. Watching Underground makes me want to weep for those all the way back at the beginning of my lineage or whatever here in the United States. Of course, I said here in the United States. Of course, I'd like to know my lineage all the way back to, Africa or whatever. But anywho, so the little boy and the black guy tells him the daddy's dealing with whatever the hell he's dealing with. He don't want nobody to ask. The black dude's telling him, well, maybe you need to, basically trying to tell him some real shit. Was that my pop? Some real shit. Now, let's ooze on back to the damn plantation. Now, and y'all, I'm all over the place, bits and pieces. Now, the master, he didn't want to, what I want to call Uncle Tom, and asked him what since old dude's messed up. But did y'all happen to see the part when Uncle Tom went into the dude's cabin, the one that was stabbed? Just how he was pondering. It was right then that I knew that there was still some humanity in him. Some, he still, as much as he seemed to begin to get this disdain for the black folks in the field, and he began to feel that they was a threat and all of that, you could see that there was a little bit of, yes, I am a part of them. Anyway, he's there. He it's like he's hovering over him, like he for some reason, y'all thought he was going to just go ahead and kill him. Because, who would have known this is my opportunity? More than likely, he done whooped him and beat him before, and he had to have been beat, because he had to be beat in this submission into what he's into. You don't just become that. You made into that. You understand what I'm saying? So the master tells him, listen, out there with the good liquor, explains to him why it's 100% proof. And he hands him this whip, and you see him smile like he's so like, okay, now I can really whoop these niggas. And I'm at this point, I'm like, motherfucker, you know. But on down the road, you're gonna see exactly why he was grateful to have that shit. Now that old girl and them are on the run and they gone, everybody's kind of scattered around trying to figure out we got to leave now. You know, they done left without us, yada, yada, yada. The mother's running around like a chicken without her head, wondering where her daughter is, goes to the son, talks to him, and he's like, did you know she felt that way? All she's thinking about is how to make this shit right. Now, she may have the most freedom of all inside that home because for some reason, she seems to know when the train's leaving, yada, yada, this and that and the third. And you know that when she's up there with that damn mobile that she played like she was getting from her son. And here come that old stank-ass, pregnant-ass mistress. You know, not mistress, lady of the house, or whatever the hoe is, because you know she feels some kind of way. She's trying to get some curtains and shit, and he's like, I can get it, but it can't be here until then. She said, do I look like a person that got 6 to 8 weeks? You know, because she having her baby. Miss Thing, the slave, she's like, oh, well, there's a train that leaves then. And I thought to myself then, how does she know that? Now, let me explain how she know it, just like we saw in the episode when she coochied his ass into submission downstairs. So I know that she knows this from him, and all the spinning in her head is fuck everybody else. It's just them. And again, another tactic to stop being selfless, as they may have been before they even was brought over here, to being selfish and only thinking about themselves. This treachery that is being put on them is also beginning to, you know, ooze in their veins, and they are learning what treachery is, because you have to learn. You have to learn to even be amongst animals like this. You know, people that will want to own people and do the things that they done. But she still misses the mark. Whatever she believes that she's sacrificed and done all she done for her children, keeping them out of the field, when really wholeheartedly she put them in even worse bondage, and she believes in her mind that she has some control within that household, and she does not. Anyway, moving forward, back to old dude and them running. They go in this cabin. She has to take her clothes off, and you know, he says, I'm gonna leave, and she's like, how am I know if it's you? And he gonna whistle. You know, she begins to get her shit off, clean off her arms and shit, where she had been whipped for the very first time. Already whipped and beaten mentally, but this is her first physical beating, and she's looking and putting water on her scars. Now notice this one too. Difference in between field and house. She immediately, you know, instead of doing anything else, she immediately start cleaning herself. Where old dude, he's out there in the motherfucking trenches because all he knows is out in that field. And we, honey, when we get to freedom, we'll get a bath. But she's so used to having, because clean was not something they really wanted to give to them. But by them being in the house, being as ornery as they were, the masters and things, they didn't want to smell them. Even though it's your fault you don't give them soap, you don't give them anything where they can fully clean themselves. You know. But anywho, y'all, this is just stuff that stood out to me. What I'm thinking as I'm watching this shit. Y'all, my damn stomach and shit is bothering me, but we're gonna push through this shit. Okay, so they run from there, and this is when the dogs is coming or whatever. She done came up with this shit, and when she does it, and they did have that cute little scene where she was trying to get the dress on and all that, and he seen that she had been whipped, or something was up on the top of her, which could have been something that happened as a child. He kind of rubs it or whatever. I'm like, y'all ain't got time to be going to the jungle, honey. Y'all ain't got time to throw. Ain't gonna be no throwing. So they start running again. This is when the hounds is coming. She sees this flower and sees she's learned some things, of course, from her mother. And I'm like, I wonder if they get ready to play into this whole thing of, again, thinking about the Indians. I'm wondering if they even gonna play into that Haitian type, just follow me y'all on this one, type of thing, you know, where voodoo and those types of things came from, given that she knows this special kind of thing. You know what I mean? What this is and where they learned it from. You know. Anywho, so the dogs come, they get their ass, you know, poisoned, and the men are like, how we gonna find them? Ain't that some shit? So, leaving off of that, we got old dude from Empire. He comes in. He didn't ran into the home of the two, the white lady and the white man, the one that's the attorney. And he breaks in there. He's looking for his wife, and he remembers him. Honey, he done said, you gonna get whipped. He done told them, I'm gonna eat like the white folks eat. This and that. The third, he has another young man in there with him. He forces old girl, I believe it is, his wife, to whip him or something of that nature. And, and they trying to say, we trying to help. We ain't, we haven't done. But still and yet, the lawyer, he forgot that, yes, he was over this at that point. And he mentioned that, trying to come up and, trying to set a position or whatever, he done some things that he wasn't happy with. Meanwhile, there's this other, and let's go back to this inside and outside again. Now, although he was light enough, old dude that played on Empire, the darker skinned one, which would have been what I would assume to be the one that would have been in the field, he had way more compassion for them, still had humanity in him to say, I don't believe that is how these people are. And he still has that fear of old dude because clearly he done snapped. And if you put a motherfucker, take a cage motherfucker that you done caged all their life and let them out, oh yeah, they gonna snap and get at your ass. So now in the midst of that, he's ready to, old dude made up this story and talking about his wife, and he was kind of going for it, but he was like, but then she had cover on her to keep her warm, and he was like, this was in the summer. So he's like, you lied to me, now I gotta cut you. The black dude is like, don't do that, but then he's still afraid of him, and he leaves out, and I'm thinking he's great cut old dude. Of course, Miss Honey Cabbage is over there crying. Here comes the dude, and he hits him with this chair and knocks him over his head or whatever, and he lets him down. And he was like, I was going to leave, but I just couldn't stay gone. No sooner than when he was talking to her and saying he's sorry, here comes the dude that really was in love with her a while ago. They had something and shot him. He's the one that came and helped them, and he came and, shot him. So, okay, but they still want to do this. And I was thinking from then, they're going to be like, nah, we ain't doing this shit. Fuck this. Put this ground back together. Put this house back together. Fuck that. But they didn't. They still wanted to do it. And, he went on to explain the reason why he wanted to do it. You see the significance of him putting that lantern in the window, because, of course, there had to be signs along the way of how to know what was a safe house to come to. So they still want to do it. Meanwhile, let's ooze on back to the plantation to Mr. Thing, who done got this whip. And he's out in the field. He done kicked holes in the water bucket and all that. Told him no water. The other one's the one that said he was going to run with his daughter on him. The wife is there and she's like, no, we got to go today. You said you was going to do it and get this child to freedom. No matter what. Give her a chance. So you thinking he's just going to be low down on me. He ain't said no water or whatever. And then there's the scene where he got them lined up because, of course, all of the names was on them papers that got stamped and shit. Which she had already said, all our names is on there. They gonna know we got to get out of here. The younger guy, he went and talked to the guy who I guess he's the one that builds stuff. The mother's the house, lives in the house and all that, but he feels neglected. He's talking to young guys like, we gotta go. He didn't leave us. And he's like, he did leave us. And maybe this wasn't a good plan or whatever. He really doesn't have that courage. He doesn't have as much courage as his sister had to just take out and run. But she had to run. Anywho, so they all lined up. He got the two white folks on the side of him. He's like, now boss, yes sir boss, and this and that and other. And he begins to tell the story about somebody being burnt and this and that. And when I knew I wasn't going to run again. And when I did, on this person who wasn't going to run again. And they running story. So he takes his motherfucking whip, y'all. and sets it the fuck off. And you think that he's gonna do something to the black folks because he's already, it's kind of like he has this disdain, but he didn't. He made it where that motherfucking cotton field was on fire and said, run, this is it. Got a hold of them motherfuckers that was next to him, and that was his story. And so, yes, he was still in line, even though he is still, has gotten this selfish in him, he still has some selflessness left. He knew that that was the only way. Now, this was supposed to be to deter while they run and give them a chance while they put this fire out. You know what I mean? So they can get up out of there and get up through. Now, they all running, the mother, the husband, and all of that. Now, this is when old dude comes in and he lets him know, because when he goes to the field after it's burned up, he was like, this was a distraction. You know, and he shows that bucket with where the bottom's kicked out. The bucket, you can't get the water and stuff. And he lets them know this was a distraction with his ornery motherfucking self. Now, at first, when he was in there talking to old dude, he was like, I want this half down. And his son that broke the glass shit. And, you know. And then when he goes out there and he shows different things, and they find out that it was a distraction, he's like, I will pay you whatever. Now he's on the motherfucking trail. They done got a little head start, but it ain't enough. It ain't a motherfucking enough, okay? The mother who said, you said you get her the freedom. The horses are kind of running behind them and this and that and other. And the guy that's no good trying to take care of his sick ass motherfucking wife, he had the gun on and she said, please don't shoot me in front of my child, knowing that she would be killed. But she just asked, please don't do that. Don't let my daughter see it. He did have enough humanity in his dog treacherous ass to not do that, but she is going to be abused on down the road. Now imagine this, and this brings me to where we at right now in society as it pertains to black women and black men. Now imagine, see, black women feel like, well, we was just left. Y'all let us get abused or whatever. Here's a black woman who sacrificed so that he could get that child on. And imagine how he's feeling, knowing that his wife is being done every kind of way, knowing that his wife is probably dead. You know, but yet again, going back to their treachery, breaking that divide in between black folks, you know what I mean? Breaking down the strongest thing that we have physically here is the black man. That is our strength, and we are they help me. We ought to be there for them. We are their strength as well. And they knew what they was doing when they tore them down, because they knew the stature of them. To be able to be resilient still after you have done these kinds of things to a person and they still stand. You know what kind of person it is, and I do understand why you're afraid. But it just showed all of that, y'all. I just be in my feelings when I'm watching this show, and it really has, you know, somewhat ignited some more stuff. That's why I was like, sick or no sick, I'm talking about this underground. If you have not watched it, I think a couple of people left a link on the other video, and if somebody has a link, please share it so people can see it. This is very important. And again, I will say this is important to the black community and the white community, because as I said, y'all know it had to have been white folks helping them along the way to make it through, or else they would not have made it. So we do have to consider that, just as well as we have to know, and we are going to say that it was white folks that put black folks in bondage and oppression and all of that. We're not going to negate that. Whether you want to hear that shit or not, that shit went on. And whether you say, I ain't never owned a slave and you ain't never picked cotton, it is still part of your history and mine. But please know that it was white folks that helped them along the way, had to. So it's good and bad in everything. You can't condemn one community of folks for one person. You know. So I just think it's important, and I love the fact that they mentioned the Indians. I hope that they kind of expound on that a little bit more. You know. Thus is a story that needs to be told as well. Because our story and their story, to me, run neck and neck. But with that said, if we talk about the treachery of the Europeans on groups of people, we know, and I'll keep saying it, that they mistreated Irish, Asians, us, You know, and if we really talk about it, of course, the Jewish, I mean, all of that. What group of people, the Indians, have they not done this treachery to? Go back and read their history and the monarchy and all of that shit. No, I don't salute the queens nor the kings, honey, because I know who the real queens are and who the real kings are. Did I say queens and queens? Well, I guess it could be that way, but y'all get what I'm saying. I know exactly who it is, so no, I don't have no solution for you at all, baby. I'm glad we don't have a monarchy and y'all can have that shit to each his motherfucking own, but I know the true kings and queens. Anywho, y'all, I'm out of here. Y'all leave y'all thoughts below and continue to give me some remedies for this damn cold. I tried to put a little hair and I don't think it helps. So I'm out, y'all. Much love.